This is our customer map. So we just don't do them here in Denver. We kind of do them all over the place. In here is some of my winnings, trophies here and there.
Sam Henry owns Sam's Custom Hydraulics in Denver.
This shop here I opened up in 1996.
His love for lowrider culture started when he was just 14 years old.
One summer I took a walk up to 38th Avenue all the way from Swansea. There was already lowriders cruising 38th Avenue that far back.
Cultivating the passion to cruise in a lowrider of his own.
So this car right here is my very first car, 72 Monte Carlo I bought years ago. I actually bought this car from Frankie Pacino, Al Pacino's uncle. Back then, didn't have money for hydraulics, so me and everyone else was putting rocks in the trunk and lowering the back ends.
He eventually mastered the mechanics of hydraulics.
Started doing it for friends on the side at home after work, and one thing led to another, and by 1990 I opened up my own business, and I've been doing it ever since.
What he didn't expect was to have his work showcased in some of the most respected lowrider magazines more than 30 times.
This is my original 81 Lincoln Mark VI. The name of the car is called Silent Whispers. Built this car in 2000, 2001. This car has a 4-pump system in it. Front, back, side to side, each individual corner. All the switches there. It's not just about getting in your car and going for a cruise on a weekend. It's a lifestyle.
A lifestyle he believes is largely misunderstood.
I remember cruising in the early 80s with scrape plates, and people wouldn't even look at you sometimes because they were, in my opinion, like, I don't want to have no problems. And you just want to tell them, you don't know me, you have no idea. You wouldn't have a problem with me. I could be your best friend. And unfortunately, there's bad apples in every group, no matter what it is. It got to go hand in hand for it to work right. Because these people live in these neighborhoods, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. We all live in the same city, so we have to all work together.
So one day, lowriders can do less explaining and more cruising in the cars they proudly build.
It's art on wheels. It's expressing yourself. It's definitely a humongous part of my lifestyle, and just want to keep passing it on and keep lowriding.
This is one of his little bibs. Oh.
Charlotta Evans still has the clothes of her little boy who would not live to become a grown man.
Yeah, he was just a little buddy. Isn't that cute?
Kay's son was just 3 years old when he was shot to death.
Yes, that's when my life became a whirlwind of grief and sorrow.
And this is the man who pulled the trigger back in 1995, Raymond Johnson. It happened during a drive-by shooting. As a teen, he was sentenced to life behind bars, but it was while in prison his life changed. He told us several years ago he decided to write to Charlotta and tell her how he felt about the murder.
It hit a hole in my heart. It hurt me bad.
He had pretty much said to me, I need help, and I would like for you to reach out to me. And he also asked me would I be his mother.
The man who had killed her child was asking her, at least figuratively, to adopt him as her son. He didn't know the night that Charlotta's son died, she had heard a voice and made a decision.
I sit there and I said, yes, I'll forgive. Yes, I'll forgive.
Years passed, then the two agreed to enter a restorative justice program to heal. Eventually, they met face to face.
I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and then for a minute, I told the major, like, I didn't want to do it.
When he dropped his head, it was him saying, look at the pain I caused this woman.
For 8 hours, they talked behind prison walls.
At the end, she grabbed my hands because she said she wanted to touch the hands that were responsible for taking her son's life.
I needed to touch his hands so that it would be real to me, that I forgave him.
Raymond is now eligible to be released in less than 2 years, and his relationship with Charlotta has grown.
I can truly say that I love the young man. and I love him enough to take him as my son and to care for him.
And she has.
Hello, how are you, son?
They talk on the phone, visit, and one day may be in this home together and talk about the son she lost with the son she gained. Rick Salinger, covering Colorado First.
You know, it's close to home. That's just beautiful.
Visitors to the James Peak Wilderness see these cabins on every visit.
And that kind of gives it a little personality in this area.
Few know why the cabins were built there.
I don't know much about them. They've been here in the 25 years that we've been coming up this way. And yeah, it'd be nice if there were some maybe historical signs up to kind of, you know, tell the story about them.
This is a little worse than the last time I was here.
Even historians found themselves looking for answers.
Their isolation and also the fact that there were 5 of them together, you knew there was some purpose here. I thought maybe they were Forest Service buildings.
The biggest clue to their origins lies just a few yards away. The Moffett Tunnel. It's named for David Moffett, a Denver rail baron. In 1904, he built a railroad up and over the Continental Divide.
Basically 23 miles of track that made all sorts of circles around lakes and trestles hanging from 1,000-foot drop-offs.
Snow quickly proved to be a huge problem.
They were basically blowing their budget on snow removal and snow mitigation. You know, they built massive snow sheds over the rails, just trying to help any way they can to limit the amount of snow that was blocking those trains.
The solution was obvious: tunnel under the Continental Divide.
He got that idea right away. It was just a problem of funding.
David Moffett would die before the funding for his tunnel was approved, but construction on the Moffett Tunnel began in 1923. Building the tunnel required 1,600 workers. The contractor built a temporary company town called East Portal to house them all.
And here at the town site, they had everything from a doctor that was on staff full-time with x-ray capabilities to a movie theater where a screening of a film was just 35 cents. Camaraderie was quite high, and I think that was because of how this town was set up. Is meant to basically be an isolated island, but yet they had everything they needed here.
The first train rolled through the Moffett Tunnel in February of 1928. Before those first train whistles faded, workers began dismantling the town board by board, all except for these 5 cabins.
The people that lived in the cabins were the supervisory personnel.
The railroad kept these 5 cabins for tunnel maintenance workers. They moved out in the early 2000s, leaving these buildings to battle the elements.
Not sure how many more winters these buildings can take.
The harsh winter climate is only half of the threat. The increased popularity of the James Peak Wilderness area brings with it an increase in vandalism.
They think no one cares, so education, I think, would do a great deal for saving these buildings.
The buildings tell a story greater than the graffiti on the walls.
Because I think it's the stories of the everyday people that really make Colorado what it is.
Gilpin County wants to purchase the buildings from the railroad.
They tie it directly to the construction of the Moffett Tunnel and of the entire railroad corridor that runs through northern Gilpin County. That was an important part of our county's history.
Acquiring them is only the first step.
And it's a small county, and the budget, it's going to be tough for us to budget for these buildings to do the work that's going to be needed. The other issue is going to be finding a new use for those buildings.
The county hopes to tap into the appeal of the great outdoors.
The nexus of recreation and history, I think, is just an extra added educational piece for people when they come to recreate, to have the ability to understand who came before and the importance of that.
Visitors like the idea of mixing history with outdoor recreation.
For each generation after us that's going to come up and enjoy this area, it'd be nice to keep the history of the area going.
lot of memories of him like smiling and making really cool jokes.
Katie Butler is a senior at STEM School Highlands Ranch.
Moving on shouldn't mean forgetting.
She is the software lead for STEM Impulse, the robotics team that was so much a part of Kendrick Castillo's life.
We don't want to forget Kendrick, and we don't want to forget everything that he meant to us, but we do want to be able to move on and really help continue the team that he loved so much.
They were one of 30 teams competing in the first Kendrick Castillo Memorial Tournament at Denver's East High School.
The outpouring of love and support after the tragic event it's monument. And I mean, this is extra special.
John Castillo stopped by the tournament named in honor of his late son.
As people discover Kendrick, I can't help but imagine that they wonder how he became the person he was. You know, this community and family have a lot to do with that.
He refers to the FIRST robotics community as family and suggests that with the loss of his son comes a charge for us all.
Love, humility, family is something that they walk and do every day. And that's why I love this community and this family so much.
And share the love and kindness that was as much a signature of Kendrick Castillo as was his smile.
Do not be a victim. Kendrick wasn't a victim. I'm not a victim. I want people to embrace life, create relationships, friendships. And as you're building robots and doing great things, if you're not into robotics, create friends. We're experiencing what love does. And I don't want that to stop. And I hope that people remember that Kendrick is the catalyst to keep that going.
In Denver, Joel Hillen, covering Colorado First.